Welcome to Gannon University. Today is a particularly notable day, and I want to just take a moment to recognize the veterans who are here with us this evening and who have served or are still serving today in honor of Veterans Day. So if you are able and willing, if you are a veteran, if you would mind standing for us, I would love to recognize you. We have Luther in the back, World War II veteran. Thank you so much for your service. Thank you for being here with us this evening. I'm really glad to have you join us. My name is Dr. Sarah Ewing, and I serve as Provost and Vice President for Student Experience at Gannon. On behalf of the university and President Dr. Walter Iwanenko, I want to thank you all for joining us and for what I anticipate is going to be an incredibly inspiring discussion on leadership and the pathways to success. We are a proud partner of the Jefferson Educational Society to host this year's Global Summit Speaker Series. We value and we support their mission to bring globally important programs to our community that deepen our understanding and broaden our perspectives. We are even more proud that so many of our students, faculty, and staff can attend these events and engage in the programs and workshops that are associated with the summit as part of their educational and professional experiences. At Gannon, we are committed to providing an environment where our students can gain broader insight on important issues at the community, state, federal, and global levels that affect us all. We are honored to partner with the Jefferson Educational Society to provide the opportunity to do just that, both for our students and our community. Tonight, we are fortunate to learn from an impressive group of leaders who bring years of experience built upon dedication and service to those they serve and support. Their exemplary commitment to success has left a positive impact on their work and on the people that have been fortunate enough to work with them. I want to say thank you to our honored guests. Welcome back to some of you, and thank you so much for joining us on Gannon's campus this evening. We appreciate your time, and we are grateful for the insights that you'll share with us tonight. So now it is my pleasure to introduce Vice President of the Jefferson Educational Society, Ben Spagan, who will welcome you all again to the Global Summit. Ben.
So thank you so much, Dr. Ewing, and thank you, entire Gannon community. It really is a community effort, and I think an incredibly strong partnership to have a think tank and a university working together to bring world-class programming, to build a room like this where we have folks of multi-generations sitting shoulder to shoulder for a true intergenerational learning opportunity. And so we're so proud to be here on the campus of Gannon University. Folks, I am Ben Spagan. I'm the Vice President of the JES, and you did not get a ticket to be here tonight to hear from me, so I'm going to try to be brief, give you some notes, and I'll be gone so that we can get on to tonight's program. Before I get into some of that, again, I just want to echo what Dr. Ewing said in thanking our veterans, those that have served the country, those who are serving the country. Also thank the loved ones, the family, the friends of veterans that also serve at home, support that network so that we can do that. We are so grateful to be able to host a program tonight, I think in honor of celebrating such leadership commitment to service, and so I do really thank you. So we do have with us two veterans tonight that we're so honored to welcome back, but two new folks, new to Erie, new to the Global Summit that we are excited to have with us as we learn from them about leadership and what it means to lead today, but also, I think, inspire leading tomorrow. Now, folks, part of what's going to happen tonight is going to be a conversation amongst the panelists led by Major General Ed Bolton, retired, who we learned from last year as he received the Thomas B. Hagen Dignitas Award, and we had a chance to see the interaction between him and his sister, Dr. Karen Bolton, back again this year as part of that. We're going to have a discussion that features not just them, but other panelists, but of course, as is a hallmark with all JES programming, we are asking for questions from you, the audience. And so if you didn't get an index card on the way through, simply raise your hand. One of our team members will be happy to provide that to you. Of course, you'll see them coming up and down the rows as we begin the program, collecting those index cards, which we'll put together and pass along to Ed as he moderates this discussion. And we'll work to get through as many of those questions as we can tonight before we conclude. Now, folks, tonight marks event number 10 in Global Summit 2024, in a series of more than a dozen events, many of which we've been honored to hold here on campus and elsewhere in the community. We have 3 more events this week. I'm here to tell you about those. Tomorrow, we will go to our campus, the Jefferson Educational Society. We're so honored to invite Harold Holzer, a renowned Lincoln historian, who will talk about Abraham Lincoln, President Abraham Lincoln, and immigration, what it might have meant in his time, what it means today, looking at Lincoln's philosophy, his knowledge. And he's the author of scores of articles, essays, books on Lincoln, including one that will be available tomorrow night. We do take a break on Wednesday, so rest up as we finish strong in the week on Thursday and Friday. We will be at Cathedral Preparatory Academy on Thursday to learn from a media panel, to do a post-election analysis. A lot of us are still making sense of what happened last week, and a lot of us are trying to make sense of where we go from here. We have some of the best in the business that we'll learn from, Tara Setmeyer, Chris Matthews, as well as David Urban, led by the chairman of our Global Summit, Mr. Steve Scully. And then we'll conclude right back here on campus in this very room to learn from Dr. Eddie Glaw Jr., a preeminent scholar who will talk about his latest book, We Are the Leaders We've Been Looking For, a discussion about what it means to be in America today. I think one of the most powerful books I've recently read, and I hope you too have taken a look at that, but you'll learn from the man himself who will be here with us on Friday. So none of this happens, of course, without great partnerships like that with Gannon University. Also, it doesn't happen without our entire team under the leadership and direction of our president, Dr. Furki Farhadi, as well as the board of trustees that supports us under the leadership and direction of Dr. Beher Gaucher. But it really doesn't happen without you, the people in the room, here to hear this message and be a part of this conversation. This isn't a one-lane road. This is a two-way street, a dialogue, a back and forth with you, the community, that we are so honored to have. And of course, we might talk about it and its impact on the election on Thursday, but inflation has not been a thing that we've experienced at the Global Summit. Thanks to our community sponsors, we've been able to keep ticket prices the same from day one. And so that's, of course, due in part to sponsors like tonight's sponsor, Lecom Health, as well as Erie Insurance, as well as PNC Bank, as well as Logistics Plus, and many, many others that you see on the screen behind that we're so grateful to have as part of our community and our network to put this programming on. So I told you I'd be brief. I hope I held that up. I got through some logistics. I know I did that. But it is an absolute honor to bring back somebody that I've had the chance to get to know over the course of not just last year, but before lining up the program. And that's one last thanks that I do want to give is to Mr. Paul Gamble, one of our trustees. Paul, we really thank you for this. And we have other folks that help lead us to bright, intelligent, inspiring, and amazing people. And Paul, you helped us get to Major General Ed Bolton, who I have just had the honor of working with, getting to know. And I hope that he might like to think of me as a mentee because I've just been trying to absorb everything I can from him. And now interacting with this panel for the day, been trying to absorb everything that I can from them. Here to offer the introduction for our panel is Major General Ed Bolton, last year's Thomas B. Hagen Dignitas Award winner. Let's give him a warm JES Global Summit welcome.
Is this on? Hello, Erie, Pennsylvania. How y'all doing? So it was the honor of my lifetime to be called back home to receive these awards and honors, and I gave you a few thoughts on life. And I was asked to come back. This time I brought reinforcements. So this time we're going to do a little panel about leadership, about how to succeed, about facing challenges, And we really have some messages for the next generation, not from me. Now, I found 3 bright, strong, intelligent Americans who just happen to be African-American women, just happens, a coincidence. And so from academia, well, I'll start here. So from industry, we have Angelia Neal. I know Angelia Neal very well. She's a very treasured coworker. She's the director of HR for our organization, the FAA, 45,000 employees. 45,000. And so she's involved in recruiting, retention, hiring, performance measurement, discipline, putting retirement, literally birth to earth, womb to tomb of everything we do. And I work in the front office, and she's a very trusted partner. So please welcome Miss Angelia. Mrs. And of course, my fraternity brother, her husband, Arthur, is also here and recording and approving of this message, okay? In the middle, I have Via Van Loo. I got a chance to work with Via Van Loo. I was retired and sleeping on my couch, minding my own business. I retired from the Aerospace Corporation. And so we have one from civil service, she's from industry. When George Floyd was murdered, the CEO of our company called me back and said, would you come work with us to make this an environment where everyone can be successful? And I said, of course, Steve, I'd love to do that. And so you're going to work with Via Van Loo. I'm like, who's Via? All right, well, I really think that Via is the most gifted DEIA professional I've ever worked with, and she knows how to incorporate these principles into everything we really do, because it's really about doing the right thing for everyone and providing an environment where everyone can do their best work. And maybe the most honored woman to ever work at Aerospace, Woman of the Year, I can just name all day, but Via Van Loo. So the final person on this panel I've actually known since Mom brought her home from the hospital. How true. So we have one from industry, one from civil servant, one from industry. Karen went to Academy High School, and her background, she is really one. She ended up a person who quit high school, enlisted in the military, and got a GED, an associate, a bachelor's, a master's, and eventually a PhD. So she's retired military, retired college professor, and she can talk a lot about resilience and dealing with challenges. And also, she's an elected school board member in her hometown, member of the school board. So, Dr. Karen Bolton. So, that's the team we got. That's the team we got, right? So I have pre-coordinated some questions here, and I'm going to just start off. But in general, we're going to talk about the area of the personal leadership style, operational leadership, and then lifting up future generations. At the appropriate time, Ben is going to stand up and wave like this, and that'll be my time to take questions from the audience, right? But if someone wants to shout something out, I'll take a question on any topic at any time. You know me, I'm always ready to go. Always ready to go. So personal leadership style, let's start with Dr. Bolton. What was a pivotal moment in your journey that significantly shaped who you are today?
There's a lot. Thank you for the introduction. I have not grown tired of hearing my entire life that I got brought home from the hospital. But anyway, there's always been significant times in my life where I've hit a crossroads and I had to go left or I had to go right. Of course, going down a bad road, dropping out of high school, that was a moment. Joined the military, but there were some things that happened in the military that made me wake up and go, you need to do something. And it was toward the end of my career where I got called in by the commanding officer and said, well, what are you going to do? And I realized that I didn't want to work bagging groceries or work the main gate, that, right? I need to go to college. I need to get a degree. And so I've always, I think it's because of our parents, the resiliency that I saw, that my mother pushing me. And the only reason I got a GED after I dropped out of high school is because my mother nagged me to death, like relentlessly. And so I've done a really good job of auto-correcting, but then I have great examples in my family. So I have an older brother who is like I hate to admit, he's a like a mentor coach of mine. And I always run things past him. And so, you know, you put people in your life that you will help you get to that next level or will help you autocorrect. And so I really appreciate the relationship I have with my brother. So that's always helps.
Thank you very much, Dr. Bolton. Let's go to Via, resiliency strategies. And so what strategies do you employ to maintain resilience in the face of adversity?
So let me just piggyback off of what Karen said, and
Yes,
then I'll
please.
go ahead and I'll answer that question. I also want to say that when I was growing up, I had a position working for a temporary agency. And working for that position is where organizations will contact you and ask for job openings to help hire. And I would get the requests asking for a non-minority, blue-eyed, blonde-haired person to sit at the front desk with no skills. And so I knew at that moment that I wanted to do something different to make sure that when people went to look for work, they were, picked off of their skills and their qualifications. And so when I was in college, I, was listening to a speaker, and her name was Gail Watts, and she's a mentor of mine. So when Gail was speaking, she was talking about her organization. She was working for HealthNet at the time. I also worked for HealthNet. And she was talking about how organizational effectiveness had changed human resources. And it turned into centers of excellence and subject matter, specialties. And I was in the audience, shy, raised my hand, said, oh, I work for one of your regional locations. The next day, she emailed me and asked, are you the VIA that was in the class at UCLA? I said yes. She asked me to come to the corporate office, and she asked, what is it that I wanted to do? So I already knew that I wanted to be in diversity because I had already had that experience working for the temporary agency. And the reason why I'm saying this is because you need to know what it is that you want, because you never know when that door is going to open for you to walk in and to ask. And she was the one that helped me get into diversity at this organization, at corporate, and the only thing that she asked was, don't disappoint me.
It's a big ask.
And so that's how I, ended up in diversity, and that was like a really pivotal moment for me.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. So I'd like to talk a little bit about motivation sources, and would ask Angela, what keeps you motivated? We all face setbacks. Anyone here not face a setback in their life? Anyone here not face a setback? Because if you did, I've faced it more than once. So I have your share. I'd like to give it back. So Angela, tell us a little bit about what keeps you motivated when facing setbacks.
Yes, thank you, Ed, for the question, and also for the invitation to you and to JES for the opportunity to be here today and participate in this conversation. There are several things that keep me motivated. One is my support system, which is my family, my husband, and family members. They certainly keep me motivated when going through tough times, and also my faith. And so it's during those tough times that I recall on whether it be scriptures or proverbs or songs, and that really helps to remind me and help center me when I'm going through trials and tribulations. It certainly helps. And then my village. So outside of my family, I have a village of friends, trusted colleagues who may be there in various forms, whether it's their presence, they're there sitting with me, going through whatever the challenge may be. They're listening, or they're providing some wisdom or advice. And I have found all of those things to be strong pillars when I'm going through various challenges.
That's great. That's well said. Thank you very much.
Can I answer that?
Yes, please. And Karen, if you want to, I can run, hey.
I wanted to just mention that, and Ed's aware of this, and I believe I mentioned it to the panelists as well. On my desk, I have a picture of my great-grandmother, and her name is Alberta Ball McCall, and she's in a cotton field with her brother, Clifford McCall. And this picture keeps me motivated and keeps me going because the struggles that my great-grandmother experienced, I can't even imagine. So on my lowest day, could not compare to the journey that she had to endure to get us to where we are. So that picture and just my ancestry and where I've came from keeps me going on a daily basis. So the work that I do is definitely a journey and not a sprint.
And I can tell we had that conversation about the ancestry when my mother passed in 2008, and I went through, it was traumatic for me because the woman who brought me into this world, my anchor, was gone. And so I did the ancestry, and part of what motivates me to keeps me going is I spent a lifetime disappointing my parents. And if most people know my family and know how I was as a kid, to be the last of 7 and to really, the wheels fell off the bus bad. And so that was part of the reason to go back to get the doctorate. Because, you know, you could call me what you want, but you better say Dr. Bolton first, right?
And that is a message in and of itself, because where you are now may not be where you end up. And so we always, if we are living to see another day, we always have an opportunity for another chance. And so I think you have a great story of perseverance. And I bet some of the things that your mom instilled in you are those things that are sort of coming to your remembrance as you're going through life. So her prayers have been answered.
Yes. Don't make me cry, Ori.
Don't get me started.
Get me started.
So to go with that thing of facing adversity, and because I think we've had a lot of that recently, and Karen and I had the opportunity this year and last year to speak to high school students, and I was really saddened at the extent that I feel like they're struggling, and they're looking for answers, and they're looking for ways to make good decisions, and looking for ways to surround themselves with folks, and don't feel the love and support that we felt. So Dr. Bolton, what advice would you give to a young person who's struggling and facing adversity? What would you say to them if you had them sitting right here? Maybe there's someone out here tonight that might benefit from those words.
So when I spoke to the 2 high schools, I said, your journey's your journey. And I always get asked, well, would you have done something differently? I'm like, well, yeah, but then I wouldn't be here, right? The butterfly effect. So whatever path you're on is a path you're on. And know that people, and I said this to them, and I say it every day, people are going to give up on you, but don't give up on yourself. And you got to surround yourself by people who are going to push you to do more and be more. I remember my mom used to say this thing, and I never got it. It's like, oh, that's nice. What are you going to do next? And then you got to do your best and then do better. And I never understood that, but being a woman of color, I get it now. I get it, Mom. I get it.
Either the other two want to talk about what advice you would give, particularly young folks. I feel like young folks, I think it's hard to be young right now because we told folks today, you know, I did a lot of dumb things in high school, but you couldn't prove it. There's no data, right? And I straightened myself up and recovered. Now you mess up, it's on Facebook forever, right? You think you pull down there's a copy somewhere, right? That's why I'm not on Facebook. I'm not on none of that stuff. So what advice, Via, would you give to young folks coming up who are really struggling with, you know, social media and peer pressure, you know, feeling like they don't fit in, don't see a strong way ahead? What advice would you give them?
I would say just be yourself. Turn off the social media. You know, stop looking at the likes and look more into your journey. Right? Because all of this is temporary. This is temporary, and this is not who you are going to eventually be. You can always reinvent yourself. And look for those that are going to be encouraging and speak into your life. You know, there's so many different, you know, mentors out there, as well as different careers. You know, I'm in the STEM field. You know, I work with an organization. I'm the deputy of space workforce for tomorrow. This is an organization that are really helping kids in STEM not to fall out and lose interest. So we're concentrating on 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders because they're dropping out and we have this major STEM gap. And so what we're trying to do is put mentors in classrooms to allow for the students when they have a difficult time are not doing well in math, they have someone to go to that's going to inspire them, keep their interest within STEM to help them get through. And then we're also building that pipeline from K-12 into the colleges and the universities, into internships. We have a National Space Intern Program where we have a platform where individuals can submit their interests online and have the opportunity to be selected for an internship for over 30 space industry organizations. And then we have the interest of converting those interns into full-time positions and eventually having them to work in our technical field and moving up into our leadership workforce. So again, what you're going through is temporary. And just know that you can continue to reinvent yourself and surround yourself by positive people and speak positive affirmation into your life.
I want to give you more credit. I mean, so Via was on the ground floor and starting Space Workforce 2030. So she works for a $1 billion a year corporation, mostly engineers. I was a proud electrical engineer at that company. And this is an opportunity to bring all people, but emphasizing women and people of color into the space and technical career field. Why? Because we don't have enough really good engineers. We want Americans to be on the moon next, right? And so we need all of the good people we can get to benefit. So if you're interested in STEM at all, look, Space Workforce 2030, put that up. And one of the things that we found out when we went to Howard a couple of years ago, we found out that if you don't have an internship when you graduate from college, you're behind. And women, people of color, tend to get the word late. So you get an internship, you're good. If you have 2 internships, you're better. So it's those kind of things, and Via is a leader on that. Thank you, Via. Angela, would you like to, what advice would you give?
Yes, I would just add to what my co-panelist has shared. We all have heard the saying that comparison is the thief of joy. And so oftentimes we are comparing ourselves to social media influencers or our colleagues. And I say colleagues because it doesn't go away after you get into the corporate or professional world, but we are comparing ourselves to the person who's beside us. And we all have our own race to run. And I believe it's John Maxwell that said there are 2 most important days in your life: the day you were born and the day you figure out why. And so my passion and my purpose may be much different from Via's, and it may be much different from Dr. Bolton's. The challenge is finding out what your purpose is and running your race with perseverance. As you mentioned earlier, it's not a sprint, it's certainly a journey. And I would also encourage anyone who may be dealing with sort of the challenges with comparison or feeling like they're not good enough to seek help. I believe that a lot has been done to destigmatize mental health and mental health well-being. And I know that there are a lot of resources on college campuses, and sometimes in your family or in your circle, lean on those resources because there's so much wisdom and so much value in helping you to be well and to be all that you are called to be.
And real quick.
Please.
So as a school board, our school district is heavily invested in social emotional deans for our kids in the elementary school, which I didn't fully understand, because when we were kids, you just pull yourself up by the bootstraps and you get out there and you do it. These kids are dealing with a whole lot more than what we had to deal with. With the social media thing, we're back and forth about banning phones and, there's all these things that these kids are having to deal with. But what I'm not seeing is adults. I only ran for school board because someone tapped me on the shoulder and said, we don't have enough diversity on our school board. We need your voice. We need you to show up. And so we have mentors that come into the school, but I need you all, who here wants to run for school board? Show up in a meeting, ask questions. Why does one school here only have a 70% graduation rate? And the majority of them are students of color. That just does not sit right with me. So you have to push back, and you have to ask questions of your educators. What are you doing? And then you got to go into the schools and say, how can I help?
I think we just crossed into mentorship, maybe mentorship territory. So let's start with you, Angela. Can you talk, this is under the category of mentorship and development. What role does mentorship play in your leadership style, and how do you identify and develop leaders?
Mentorship plays a key role in my leadership style. I grew up in rural Louisiana, much smaller than Erie. Ed has been talking about Erie. I thought it was this really small town. Erie is a big town compared to the small town I grew up in rural Louisiana. And I grew up in an area where it really was the community that helped. My parents had a high school education and they had hope. They had hope that their children would have exposure and opportunities that they did not. And so they ensured, we were in organizations, clubs, and then it was the community organizers, the Sunday school teachers, it was the club sponsors. All of those people helped pour it into me to help mentor me and help me grow along. And so I certainly learned from them the value of paying it forward and reaching back. And so mentorship is so important. That's why you see it in schools, and then you also see it in your professional life. We often have professional mentoring programs. But I have learned all about leadership from the best and the worst leaders.
Thank you.
You can learn something from everyone. And so I've learned what to do as a leader, and I've also learned what not to do. So I believe it plays a critical role in my leadership style. It showed me how to lead with empathy and how to really care and lead people. And I believe in order to be a good leader, you first have to be a good follower. And so when I'm looking at developing leaders, I'm looking at those who are, how are you managing your brand? How are you managing your work? How are you showing up as an individual contributor? Are you relational? Oftentimes we promote people based on their technical expertise, and oftentimes they don't even like people. They've said that. I really don't like people, but they didn't pass up the promotion, right? And so it's important that as leaders, we have to be relational because it's all about caring and serving people. And my leadership style of servant leadership is to know and care about that individual first, and then also to help lead them in advancing the mission of the organization. And so I believe when you're looking for leaders, potential leaders, you're looking at those who are available. Are they accountable? Are they willing to be held accountable? Are they teachable? And again, are they willing to be a good follower?
Again, very well said. Via, would you like to follow up on leadership and mentoring, your leadership style, your mentoring style?
Yes. I mentor, and it's really about role model. So I make sure that I am a good example for my mentee. And the way that I select my mentees is basically off of their work ethics. How they're working, are they adding value? Do they have passion? Are they interested? And then also, I put them to work. I make them accountable, right? So I make sure that they are sharing with me and being vulnerable on things that they're doing, if it's personal or related to their work. Let's talk about a project. What difficulties are you having? Let's talk about how we can navigate those difficulties and, what resources and tools we can leverage and we can pull from. So I make sure that we are having conversations to help continue to build their leadership competencies and to also to help set them up for success. So those are some of the areas of where I am, passionate about, serving, but then also making sure that they have other mentors that don't look like me. You need a wide variety of mentors to be able to, help you in certain areas of your career journey.
Dr. Bolton.
So I'm involved with the Faculty of Color cross-institutional mentoring program. When I went through the tenure process, my dean, white, PhD, retired Army colonel, and the three tenured professors that are on my tenure committee, white male, PhD, white male, mathematics, PhD, and another white male, PhD, I used to just sweat. But then a group of us met, and we realized that a lot of faculty, specifically faculty in BIPOC communities, faculty of color, were not getting through the tenure process. So we, in Washington State, we created the institution. So we meet every year, we help people, we mentor other faculty from other institutions to help them through the tenure process. Because I was having a complete breakdown. I'm like, I know I'm good, I know, but they would critique me, and if something wasn't, an I wasn't dotted or crossed, or I was missing an evaluation, like I start sweating and I come out of there, I sit in my car, I cry. I'm like, what is going on? And so, we realize that we have to be there. We have to show up for specifically for the BIPOC community, right? Because that was missing within that. And so I most certainly believe in servant leadership. Robert Greenleaf, amazing. And so I really believe in being there for individuals. But to this day, when I mentor people, I know I'm taking on too much sometimes. So sometimes if I can't, I will go meet with you for coffee. And let's talk about it. Let me help you through this and say, I can't really, and I will tell them up front, listen, I can't mentor you, but I will be here for you. Which I know I should be saying no, because I'm supposed to be retired and I'm still feel like I got a full-time job. But it's important for me because people show up for me. And so I got to show up for them.
Let's
Add a little bit?
please.
Okay. What I just also want to add is, just because I'm at a certain place within my career doesn't mean that I don't need a mentor. So my mentor is Ed Bolton. He has spoken into me and has helped shape my leadership style and helped me with executives within our organization, helping me to be able to pivot and to grow. Without his direction and his support, I would not be to where I am right now, or have received the accolades or the awards that I, currently receive. Not only was he a mentor for me, he was a sponsor. So a sponsor is different from a mentor. He was in a room and with other executives, and he would speak up on my behalf when I am not in that room. So depending on your journey and making sure that you are passionate about your work, and people see that. And when they see that, then they will speak up for you. And, we didn't have a formal mentor. I didn't go to him and ask him to be my mentor. It just happened organically.
I thank you for that, but I guess I want to say something about that. Is that I would say that, I'm like 70 years old this year. I have a 50-year work history. Of all the people that I've worked on a team with, I've never seen anyone who learned faster, tried harder, followed up more, was more reliable, someone who could take hard feedback, right? Someone who would be held accountable. And the more pressure you put on her, the more she delivered, right? And for a while, it was just me and Via, and then the CEO. So I was like, hey, Via, can we make this happen? So again, I gave because she was so worthy and so deserving, and she got stuff done, right? I mean, if a person is mentoring and sponsoring you, it's not a favor, it's not a gift. It's value that you bring to the organization that is the reward for more value to you. So I salute you for stepping up. If I could only get some of my nephews to listen to me, I'd... Oh, my God. You heard all that.
Yeah. I want to
inside joke.
I want to add something to the mentorship, because you're right. So Ed was an up-close mentor for you. But how many of, or either of you listen to podcasts or watch YouTube videos? Like Brene Brown, she's my mentor. She doesn't know it, but she's my mentor. And there's so many others where really you can glean. There's so much information out there. All you have to do is literally type it into Google and it's there. And so any challenges that you're facing, leadership challenges, how to, work through various situations, there are resources out there. And so I think that it's important to mention those mentors. Like you said, we may not be personally reaching out to say, hey, will you sponsor me, or will you be my mentor? But it's folks, again, who I've learned from, and they don't even know I'm alive. And I think that it's important to remind you all of that as well.
Ellen Langer, Harvard, first woman to be a tenured professor at Harvard in psychology. That's how I've been listening to recently. I've had a series of them as I grow.
Wait, Ed, real quick.
Yeah, please,
ma'am.
Please.
I remember I was at the college and I was upset about something, and I scheduled a meeting with the president of the college to go in there and tell him how I felt. And he said, I like you. And all of a sudden, he plucked me from the faculty ranks and he made me an administrator. And I was like, oh my goodness. And then we were in a meeting, and it was about we're restructuring the education system to where it's guided pathways. So we noticed that the data was showing that specifically students of color were going into community college, a 2-year college, and they were spending 4 years to get a 2-year degree. So we cut out 8 sections of English. So you only have 4 you have to pick, and then if you're only going on this pathway. So he put me on that as a director. And one of the faculty members who was there 50 years started yelling at me, and I almost came out of character. And this guy, the president, who was a severe introvert, I think he was on the spectrum, great guy, he reached over and put his arm in front of me, and he got up in this guy's face, and I'm like, oh, let me get my phone, right? Because I was like, it's going down. But he was so invested in me, and I haven't seen him. I ran into him this summer, and he was all excited. He said, I've been following you. I'm so proud of you. I'm like, I ain't seen you in 5 years, right? But sometimes when you go in there and you're mad and you're intentional, all of a sudden it's like, oh, like he's going to help me. And so sometimes you just have to just go in there and do it yourself, because, a lot of us, unless you call us, I'm not coming to you.
So we're going to be taking questions from the audience shortly, but while we have you, Karen, do you want to say a little bit about how to make sure our educational systems are helping this next generation prepare for an increasingly complex world?
So, how much time we have? We ain't ready. So we're going off an education K through 12 system that's archaic, that we have not changed the system whatsoever. And so we have not adapted. The funding model, whatever state you're in, Washington State, it's horrific. And it's embarrassing. It's embarrassing. I have people coming into our school board meeting yelling at us, you need to restrict cell phones. We need to be talking about AI 5 years ago. And not only that, and the hard part of this is that, in my personal opinion, we have a community college, we have what we call Running Start in Washington State. So you could go through school, when you get to 10th grade, you get ready, you could go into the community college if you have enough credits, and then if you go to community college, you could end up 11th and 12th grade taking college classes, and we have a handful of students who graduate with their associate's degree and their high school diploma at the same time. And most of our students are students of color who come from marginalized communities. I personally think that we should scrap the 11th and 12th grade, that we should do pre-K to 10th grade, and focus on getting those kids into 11th and 12th grade, either into some kind of professional technical degree, an associate's degree, or industry, or in the military. We have to do something, but we cannot continue on with this archaic model, and it's not working. I'm glad that we are focusing on the social emotional, but really it's just a Band-Aid that we noticed and identified that our students are coming out of COVID in horrific shape. And so I come in there, and so people are yelling at me, and I pull them aside. I'm like, do you know anything about AI? Well, what's that? Exactly. So why not support the teachers and allow them to take a sabbatical to go redevelop and update their curriculum so that the students can use their phone in the classroom? Why not turn off the Wi-Fi in the building? I mean, there's simple solutions, but I think we as adults and baby boomers, sometimes we get in our own way. And the students see that. They're not engaged. And if we're not engaging them in the curriculum and things that they need to get them to the next level, they're going to be on their phones. It's not rocket science.
I just wanted to follow up on that because, we've learned from the pandemic during the school system that they were able to, work online. So why don't we utilize some of that for, the work? So we have organizations that, we could tap into, and why not have a classroom to also experience the day of a life of an employee that's working. And they can experience that online outside of working, outside of classroom hours. So we have to think differently to be able to give these students experience into careers, but then also, give them the confidence and not have fear when going into an internship and not knowing if they can, if they are, qualified or, have an imposter syndrome or if they should be there, because they should be there.
So it's difficult for me because, during the pandemic, we gave every single one of our students a computer. But then we identified, guess what? Not all of them have internet. So we had to put internet on buses and put them in central locations, and then they sit in the parking lot doing their homework. That's just not right. It's not right at all. But it's very hard for me when I look at this education system and we're just not doing what we need to do for them. And no one's asking them. Why not ask them what they want? What do you want to do? Yeah. And it's a different society. Granted, we were all going to be kicked out of the nest when we were kids and we're not coming back. But now this is a whole different ballgame that they're dealing with. It's the society that they're coming into is a very volatile society. We may be on the cusp of not even having a Department of Education here in the next few years. We haven't even had that discussion yet.
I will say something. We weren't going to talk about the election tonight.
I didn't say election.
All right.
I didn't say election.
But I do want to say one thing about the election. All right. It's 3 words or 4 words if you have a contraction. So remember this when you're seeing things on the news. Don't blame us. Moving on. I would like to talk a little bit about, because the theme I'm hearing here when it comes to the next generation is about getting involved, having discussion, dialogue. So Angela, would you talk a little bit about intergenerational dialogues and how you see that? I know literally we have people born in the 1940s and people born in this century among your workforce of 45,000. So, right? So
Absolutely.
Talk about that, please.
Yes, and intergenerational dialogue is very important because it gives us the opportunity to share the wisdom from our elders or our older colleagues, but also we get the opportunity to experience the innovation of the youth. And so this isn't just in the workplace, it's also at home. So we're coming up on some of our most treasured holidays. And I'm not sure about you all, but oftentimes when we're with our family gatherings, the adults are in one room and the kids are in another room, right? And I think we need to change that. And we need to come together. I see a head shaking. Is that a no? We shouldn't change that? It's important for youth to be around the elders, to hear about history, to hear about vision, to hear about what Nana and Grandpa and Papa and all of those people went through to get to where they are. Oftentimes, our youth aren't afforded those stories. And so they don't know about the challenges. They see the triumphs. They see we moved into, a new neighborhood. We have a nice house now. We have these things. They don't know oftentimes about the challenges. So I think it's important for us to start bridging those gaps through conversations. So that means we have to put the phones down. And I don't know about you, again, in my family, when the children are in a room together, they're all on their phones. So they're not even communicating. And so we have to talk, we have to share, we have to ask questions. And I think there are some creative ways in which we can do it so that it is fun, but it's an opportunity for us to learn from each other. Same thing, so that's in our families, in our communities, but also in our workplace. This is the only time we've had this many generations in a workplace together, multi-generational workforce, where sometimes the manager of the team is old enough, young enough, whatever age you want to say, to be your grandchild or maybe to be your grandfather. It just depends on the area. And so we have to learn how to communicate as leaders. How I manage a baby boomer is differently than how I may manage a Gen Z or a millennial because they require different things. And so I believe those conversations and that dialogue is important for us as a society, for us to get where we need to go. And that means having those conversations, being vulnerable enough to share our challenges and maybe where we made mistakes, when we needed to pivot, sharing when we pivoted in our careers, in our work. And I think that will bring greater understanding, mutual understanding of one another, and also collectively we can come up with solutions for the challenges that we're facing today.
Awesome. So I have some great questions from the audience. Please send more. So I'm going to throw this up as a jump ball. I played a little basketball. I have a couple of folks on the basketball team or came in here today that I hadn't seen since forever. What was the hardest thing you overcame that made you into the leader that you are today? Who wants to take a crack at that one? So I'll take a crack at it. Okay. Go ahead.
I can talk. So, I want to go back to, George Floyd and the murder. And during that particular time, we did town halls within our organization, and we heard a lot from our employees. And also during that time, we uncovered that a lot of our employees were having uncomfortable stops with the police department. And we, as an organization, could have just took the feedback and did nothing, or we could have, responded. And what we decided to do was to respond. We went to the city council, we spoke with the mayor, we also spoke with other city officials. We asked for a DEI council to be added to the city. We also asked to speak with the chief of police as well as the watch commander. We were able to speak with the chief of police. We spoke about the uncomfortable stops. We had our employee resource groups to come in and to have those conversations with the police department to share their experiences. As a result, the police department, they provided unconscious bias training to their officers. We also implemented a hotline for employees to call my office if they received an uncomfortable stop, and then we would have that interactive conversation with the watch commander. We also implemented quarterly, our security would go to a council meeting and share any uncomfortable stops with the city and have those conversations. Till this day, I want to say that we have not received any uncomfortable stops because of what we implemented during that particular time.
So during COVID, I was coming back. I'm a golfer, and so I was coming back from the golf course, and I was driving, and I was on speakerphone talking to a friend, and coming into my neighborhood. I live in a nice neighborhood with HOA, and this guy turned around, looked at me, and he glared at me, and I was thinking, whatever, white guy. And so I pulled over to get the mail, and he walked past me, and he spit at me. And it's just COVID. And so I'm thinking, this COVID, I don't know this guy, that's assault. So in my mind, right, elected official, Dr. Bolton, professor, we're a small town. I called the police. Described a guy who was with his son. And so then all of a sudden, a couple hours later, I get a phone call from the police officer. Yeah, I talked to him. He said, she said. So I said, wait, what? No, sir. Well, what are you gonna do? Well, there's nothing I can do about it. All right. Call the mayor. Mayor's a friend of mine. Hey, Greg, you need to do something. So then he didn't do anything, right? So then I called a friend of mine who called newspaper. They called me. They did an interview. And you guys can Google it. Black woman spit at, and the response, it was abysmal. Then the next day and a half later, I get a phone call from the lieutenant. Hey, we need to file. They didn't even file a police report. So then the guy called, well, and we're going to do I said, what, you going to do one now? I said, it ain't worth it for me. And in that article, I talked about how, I'm a citizen, I'm an upstanding citizen, I'm a community leader. But I got the mayor's number, and I can call him up, and then that's how you step to me? So from that day on, every time I see a chief of police, I go, right? And so I got dragged to this community policing, event, and he gets all nervous, he starts stuttering, blah, 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 and I'm like, oh my gosh, here we go. Okay, Dr. Bolton, I'm glad you're here. I'm like, yeah, what's up? And so, but I realized that I need to make the first move. So I called him up a couple months ago, we went and had coffee. We spent 2 hours together, and I told him how I felt. I said, that's not right. I said, you have to do better. And by the way, you need to hire more people of color in the police department. He said, how can I do that? Man, I'm not trying to take your job, right? Hire somebody and figure it out. That's not for me to take that on. But that was a turning point for me with COVID. During COVID, I felt safe and secure because I didn't have to worry about these things, but it still happened, right? I still deal with those challenges to this day.
Do you want to crack at that one? Or?
I can. There have been several hard moments in leadership, and I would just say all of them have taught me about perseverance. And it's really an opportunity. They've been opportunities for self-reflection for me and thinking about how to work through those situations using those tools that I shared earlier in our conversation.
Thank you all. So this question, the panel all came from supportive families. How do you give support, mentorship to those children that don't have supportive families? Leading and succeeding needs to start early in life.
So I think we have to flip this model because it always feels like we as adults want to be the subject matter experts in the room. And I think we need to put the kids first and let them speak and meet them where they're at. And that's one thing I've learned with leadership. It's a Hershey-Blanchard situational model. When you're leading people, you meet them where they're at. So when we have people on board the carrier and ship, and they don't know how to get from the brow of the ship to their berthing, you teach them how to get there, you teach them how to get to food, and where to show up for work. They don't need to know anything else, right? So with the kids to this day, we're not meeting them where they're at. Let's meet them where they're at. We did a good job with our school board, and we have 2 student representatives on our school board. And they're non-voting members, but they get to vote on the things that we're doing, and they get to hear the student voice. So we have a junior and a senior, and we take them with us to our every event that we go to. They come with us. So we're getting ready to do a day on the Hill where we talk to legislators, and I let them talk to them. They don't need to hear from me. They need to hear from them.
Can you repeat the question?
Yeah, it's really about, all of us coming from supportive families. So let's say there's a person that does not come from a supportive family. How does this person find leaders and mentors, whether you're, and I don't know if it's the perspective of a person who is that person, who wants to help that person.
Sure.
It's finding support outside of a strong family system, which is what you are seeing a lot. So any thoughts on that at all?
Absolutely, yes. So I'll say again, my parents had a high school education and hope, and they gave me support, but they didn't have the tools. They didn't know where these programs were, but it was the community leaders that really poured into me and saw something in me and say, hey, Angela needs to apply for this scholarship, or Angela needs to do this. And so it was those relationships again. So they were supported from the perspective of wanting me and my siblings to go further than they had, but they didn't personally have the tools, but the community provided them. And so for someone who's here who may not have a supportive family system, you have the community, you have your professors, you have friends. Sometimes it's the parents of friends. There's so many, there are organizations, professional associations, so the resources are certainly there. And I want to add to what you mentioned about having student representation on the board. There's a concept now called reverse mentoring. I'm not sure if any of you have heard of it. So it's not just the elders, again, the adults mentoring the youth. It's also the other way around. And so I have certainly learned a lot from my young cousins, from my nieces and nephews. They tell me when I'm being maybe too outdated or too traditional, too extra. They're telling me when they don't do that anymore, TT. That's what my niece will tell me.
You
They
lagging,
don't
I'm lagging.
Yeah, you're lagging, yes. And they'll also tell
you don't know it, yeah.
yes. So that is important, and I would encourage you all. I've seen it happen in the corporate space as well, the sort of reverse mentoring. So the student becomes the teacher. And so again, that's another example of that intergenerational dialogue where I believe we all have something that we can teach and learn from each other.
So I have one question. Someone said with a green pen, I think they misquoted me, so I'm happy to clarify and talk to you after the meeting, for as long as you like. So, how do you know if a mentor is the right fit for you?
I can take that. You know, again, it's exploring. So you won't know until you start having those conversations and you start putting pen to paper and writing out what you expect to get from this mentor relationship. So it's really based off of what it is that you want to receive, because you'll have different mentors in different industries and, you know, different areas of your life. And you pull on those particular mentors for the part of the life that you need assistance on. You know, I have about 5 mentors in my life. I meet regularly. Every year I meet with my mentors and we have conversations about my personal life, my career, my journey, where I want to go, difficulties, how to navigate, and, you know, just where I want to be within the next 3 years. So again, you won't know until you start having those conversations. And don't be afraid to stop a mentorship relationship. If you are not receiving what you intended in the beginning of the mentor relationship, it's okay to stop it. Even as a mentor, if you have felt that you have taken this person as far as you're able to, take them, it's okay to end the relationship and have them to grow and be watered by another mentor.
And I would say do it, have a conversation about it. Don't ghost them, as again, that's another trendy word, right? Yeah, don't. So have those conversations. When I joined the federal government, I came in as a U.S. Presidential Management Fellow. And it was an internship program where we literally interviewed potential mentors. So I had questions that I asked them. But so you can go the very formal route, also observing someone who may be excelling in an area that you feel like you need to grow in. So maybe it's public speaking and you know someone who's a great public speaker. Most of the time, people are flattered to be considered to be a mentor and they will share what they know with you. Also, mentoring and being a mentor and receiving mentorship is work, and it's also reciprocal. So it's not just about what you can get from that person. It's about a relationship, because I believe there should be an exchange of information. And so when you're being mentored, there's some investment that you have to make as well, time. Listening to their wisdom and incorporating that or not, or figuring out how to incorporate that. So it's not just about what you can get from that individual, but it's also about what you can give and what you have time to invest in order to make their investment in you worthwhile.
And one of the things, full transparency, I have stalked people I wanted to be my mentor. And I mean that in a good way. I did my research on them, right? I need to know who you are, because for me, I need to know, because if your house is not in order, I'm not dealing with you, literally. Like, I need to know, okay, where do they work at? Who are the people in their circle? Where do they go? So, because if they're messy, I can't do it, because they're going to bring me down, and I'm not about that. The other good thing about a mentor, one of my mentors I had in the, higher ed, she did something for me. I was frustrated. I couldn't get interviews. And she did this thing, well, did you call the president and have a meeting? I'm like, you could do that? Oh, yeah, it's an informal thing. So, yeah, my white colleagues do it all the time. I'm like, she said, hold on, let me give you, hold on. She called. Yeah, she could come tomorrow. And I hung up. It's like, you got me meeting with the president? She said, they do it all the time. That's a good mentor. It's like, she cleared a path for me to go in there and have a meeting with this person to go, wow, right? And so that I could develop a relationship. Because in the interview, you apply for the job. If you get the interview, that means you meet the minimum qualifications. Then you get to go through the gauntlet of the interview. But I just cut to the chase. I went right to the president, right? And so then they can advocate, going, let me see the list, because I got to make the decision. Now, I didn't get the job, but I still developed a relationship with that president, which helped me when I went to do my dissertation, because I interviewed half of the presidents, community college presidents in Washington State, and I got it done in 2 weeks. And it was all because my mentor opened the door, and then that person introduced it. So it's just, you got to do your research.
We're being flooded with like really good questions. Let me just offer on mentorship. My view is that I think we look at mentorship too seriously, too formally. I think people think of it as a very clearly defined, structured relationship. And you may want someone to look at your resume and sit down with them over dinner or lunch and have them mark it up in real time. That's mentoring. So anything from a one-time coffee to a once-a-year meeting, there's a spectrum and a continuum, and there's value to be had in every part of that spectrum. So this idea, will you be my mentor? I think, will you meet with me, right? If you say, will you be my mentor, people are afraid. Oh, it's like adopting a kid or something, right? It's like, oh God, I'm mentoring 8 people, I can't mentor 9. Will you meet me for coffee? Will you do it? Will you take a walk with me and let me bounce some ideas off you? When I write this product, can I run it by you? Hard to say no to that. Hard to say no to that. So I think there's value to be had all up the spectrum, and everybody in here knows something better than every one of the people up here. It might be playing chess, it might be mathematics, it might be something. So a person can help you in one area that may not be able to help you with your entire life. And I think that also goes back to people who don't have a strong support in their families, and my heart goes out to you. But hopefully you have at least one good teacher, right? Maybe you've got a track coach. Maybe there's someone in your community or your church. Maybe it's a friend's parents, right? So you live in a world that's bigger than your house. Get out. If you don't have what you need inside your house, get out and find someone, because there's someone out there that cares for you. There's someone out there, or there's someone out there that's willing to invest with you if they just know that you're of need. So these are some of the hard questions. Do you want a hard question? You guys want an easy one? I know you guys want hard questions. All right, here's. That one's hard. All right, here we go. Does the color of your skin affect challenges? It says in my life, but I think, does the color of your skin affect the challenges in your path in life?
I'm not a president of a community college. Far as I went was a professor, and I had a temporary as an administrator. Couldn't crack that ceiling. And I'm more qualified than them. I could only get so far. So yeah, it affected. It's very obvious.
I will say personally, I have worked really hard in terms of my character, my leadership, and my work ethic to ensure that that is not seen as a deterrent personally. So how I show up, I believe, impacts my journey and how far I've been able to travel. And so what I have worked hard to do is to ensure that that is eliminated. I can't change that, but I can ensure that I'm showing up to be the best that I can be and adding value wherever I am.
Part of my job is also handling investigations, like racial discrimination as well as sexual harassment. I've experienced racial discrimination at a very young age. I can remember my sister and I in a car with my mom, and my mom driving, and the window gets rolled down and someone is yelling, the N-word toward me and my sister. And we didn't know what that was, but we knew that it was like a bad word. And so we both looked at our mom, and our mom looked at us and said, "What's your name?" "My name is Via." And she kept asking, "What is your name?" And, that, corrected us. And, even in college, I would raise my hand in English class and would never get called on. And then eventually my professor asked, "Why don't you take a Pan-African Study English class?" And so, I can recall several different incidents throughout my journey that shaped me to who I am now, and the reason why I'm in diversity, equity, and inclusion, to make a difference and to be able to support individuals that don't have a voice, and to be their advocate and to speak, for them and on their behalf. So what I do for work, I also do in my personal life. This is my journey.
But just make sure they know we show up in spite of, no matter what. Because I got nowhere. Because if I don't show up, then people see that. Then the students of color and the BIPOC community see that. And trust me, I don't I want to be retired. I don't want to be in a school. Don't really want to be in a school board. I don't want to do all these things, but I have an obligation. I have a commitment to myself that I have to serve my community. So I'm going to show up, and I'm going to still do the work in spite of.
Yep, and then just to add on to that, I can go to work and I can badge in, and my colleagues would badge in right after me, but then I will get the call out, let me see your badge. Do you work here? I am the principal director, chief executive diversity officer for this organization, and I make that a teaching moment for that individual because you're asking to see my badge, but you're not asking my colleagues that walked after me and, also badged in. So again, there's always, learning moments that I ensure that happen throughout my DEI journey.
All right, let's flip the script on that one. This is a question I didn't anticipate at all. What do you do when a colleague of the same minority race fights against you?
Pardon me?
What do you do when a colleague of the same race, the same minority group, fights against you? I'll throw that up. And if no one else has thoughts, I always have thoughts.
I can speak that. So throughout my journey, I've learned how to navigate. And I have, worked with our senior executives and leaders within the organization and have made allies. And they assist me in my initiatives by helping me to integrate my DEI initiatives within the organization enterprise-wide. I call them my friends. So my friends are there to support me, even related to Space Workforce 2030, Space Workforce for Tomorrow. There was a challenge as far as a recycling of talent within the space industry. What do we do in order to stop that? And we can't do it alone, so we have to go to the space industry and to the other CEOs and ask for their help. And this is the reason why the pledge was formed, so that we can assist with building that pipeline from K-12 through STEM. So when you are having these challenges, make sure that you go to your network, build out your network and your community of support. And typically, the bystander will jump in on your behalf and speak for you where I didn't even have to say a word.
I would say that just because we share the same shade of skin tone does not mean we agree on everything. And so when there are challenges that come up, then you address them as I say typical interpersonal conflicts. But again, if we were around each other, we just met today, but if we spent an amount of time together, there would be some things that we did not agree on, and that would be okay, and we would work through those things. And I don't think that has anything to do with our ethnicity or our gender, but it's just maybe the lens that we're looking at the challenge or the situation through.
All skin folk ain't kin folk. So I just went through this in the last election. We had, there was a mistake we had to run a write-in candidate for a county commissioner position, and a senator asked this brother in our community to step up. And I'm gonna support this brother because he runs a nonprofit called Up From Slavery. He is in our community doing the work. He does, he came from the prison system, so he owns 3 businesses and the work that he's doing. And I'm like, brother, I'm there for you. I didn't know I was gonna end up running his campaign for him. But the backlash from our own community got me some kind of way in the last few months. And I'm jammed up about it still. And our community's not together. Now, Ed pointed out that we did come from a small town, but in his defense, our community was small. I could tell you how many families that we all were together either, and let me tell you something, if I was on the west side of town, my mother got a phone call. If I was down on French Street, 23rd, and I'm not supposed to be there, we got a phone call. Our community was very small, so we couldn't really come outside the lines too far. So this really it's been a challenge for me to really kind of work with my community to get us back together because we are fractured. And the reason I believe that we're fractured is, and we talked a little bit about this, y'all forget where you came from. And you forget about the struggles that our families had to make to get us here. I understand what my dad had to go through to get from Laurel, Mississippi to Erie, Pennsylvania, via Cleveland, right? And how my mother's father came, you know, sharecropping family. I understand that, right? I understand the assignment. So it's my goal that I'm going to be taking on more work, I guess, but to get our community to come back together because we got work to do. I can't have other people, you cannot weaponize the people in our community to come after this man of color. I'm going to stand up for him, and you know, and I value this because my brother stands up for me. That man stands up for me with people within our own family, within our community, like none other. So of course, that brother, I'm going to stand up for him no matter what.
Love that. So we're right towards the end. So I want to do something a little different here, just a little different before I wrap up and thank. I miss the opportunity to thank Furky and Ben and their entire team from the Jefferson Educational Society who made this all possible. So let's thank them. I thank all of you for the gift of time. For you could be home watching football tonight, for spending some time with us and giving us a good listening to. This is very important to us. Somebody came all the way from California, someone came all the way from Seattle, Washington, and someone came all the way from Washington, D.C. and dragged her poor husband because it was important to spend time for you and share and spread the word and pass along some knowledge what they've learned out these 3 exciting careers. So I just want to ask each of you to take a minute or two and just what concluding thoughts, ideas you have for this great body of folks here right now. Let's start with Karen. What do you got?
Okay. Yes, I've still got kinfolk in my head, so forgive me for that. I really believe, especially after this last week, I've always been an optimist, and I know we're going to be okay. I know that. Because we may have lost the fight, but we didn't lose the war. This still is going to take a lot of us to do this work. I'm very passionate about education, being a high school dropout with a GED who struggled mightily with some issues when I was a kid. And people didn't give up on me. I really, really, really hope that you consider going into your schools and ask questions and then ask how you can help. I also really hope that you would consider flipping the model with the kids and bringing them into the room. Now, you're going to get kids that are not going to want to talk to you or anything, right? But I remember fixing my mom's VCR with the clock, right? So, them kids are smart. They could teach you some things now that please help me fix this. They want to do that. And if you engage the kids, the youth, and you involve them in to fix the system and fix the problem, you're going to be pleasantly surprised. I'm looking forward to the next few years to see what happens. I'm sitting back with my popcorn because this is going to be fun. But just stay in the fight with me, please.
Bia. Thank you, Karen.
I want to say, try to get involved. Try to get involved, especially with K-12. And, do whatever it is that you can to be able to support the children. I mean, this is our next generation. We develop curriculum for teachers. We're there to support the teachers. We just put on like a National Space Day. We had Congress to recognize May 3rd as National Space Day. We held watch parties across our organizations. We also, we're in over 43 countries, sharing experience about space and trying to inspire the next generation. The other thing what I want to say, especially about speaking to our youth, I want you to be able to speak up. Speak up. Don't be afraid to raise your hand. Don't be afraid to ask your question. If I didn't raise my hand when I was in college to the VP of Human Resources, I would not be where I am today. And so again, have that courage, have that confidence. You never know where the next big idea may come from, and it may be you.
This conversation today was about the current and the next generation, and we always say the future is now. Everyone in this room and everyone who's listening to this message has something to offer someone else. And so my message to everyone is to pay it forward. We did not get to where we are by ourselves. We had someone, again, an educator, family member, community friend, someone who poured into us. It's our time to pour into them.
So I guess I'll just say one last time then. Let's say thank you to Dr. Karen Bolton. Miss Via Van Loo. And Miss Angela Neal. I'm honored to be here with you tonight. I think they knocked it out of the park. What do you think? They knocked it out of the park? Right? Kick butt, right? So, and I guess I do want to say for all you veterans, thank you for your service. I will remember you. I'll remember your contributions, right? And for the rest of you, take care. God bless. God bless America.